party people. Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined once again by my good friend Tracy Barnett for another game of Iron Edda Accelerated, and this one is very, very cool. You see, we've played Iron Edda Accelerated before on the show, the game of Viking action, mythological warfare, the end of days. We played it with, Tracy and I played it once before on the show. It was really, really cool. Tracy reached out about playing it again, and when I sat down with them to play, they posited a really cool idea, which was, what if we played the same world again? What if we told the next chapter in the story of Jotunheim, and we built out new characters and a new story around the same setting and world that we'd previously built? I was super, super into this idea. It is very, very exciting, and I can't wait for you to hear it. This is the first of a two-part episode. This one will cover character and world creation as we lay out the story that we're telling. We kind of revisit the themes of our previous episode, and we hash out all of the prep work to make the next episode happen. Next episode, which will drop next week, will be the actual gameplay portion. Normally, when we have a character creation and a gameplay episode, we try to drop them on the same week, but with it being a holiday and also, it's just kind of been a busy few weeks for us, self-care is important. We haven't really had time to get both of those episodes edited, so we're dropping them one week and then the next. Flexible schedules. That's the joy of a self-produced product. Anyway, before we dive in, a few quick things that are very exciting. First, a quick announcement that this weekend, that is the weekend of July 5th to the 7th, I will be in Morristown, New Jersey for DexCon. It is very exciting. It is sort of a last-minute impromptu thing. I am super excited. We're going to be running some things. We are running a special onstage version of Mission Accomplished. It is open to anyone and everyone that is interested in coming to play. It is going to be very, very fun and very, very silly. Who doesn't love Mission Accomplished, the game of super spies and office meetings? It's going to be great. We're also taking part in some other panels and game things. There will also be a special last-minute Party of One live show at DexCon Saturday morning at 9 a.m. If you are in or around Morristown, New Jersey, I'd love to see you come out for that. It's going to be very, very fun. I am being joined once again by my good friend, first ever guest on the show, Noah Houlihan. We're going to play a very silly, lighthearted game. There's going to be some crowd interaction. It's going to be a blast, and I hope that you'll join us. And then speaking of live shows, July 20th at 5:30 p.m. will be another Party of One live. This one at Tattooed Moms in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania as part of the Philadelphia Podcast Festival. It's going to be so much fun. I love doing live shows. They're very silly and light and fun. I really hope you'll make them out for at least one of them, if not both. You can find information about all of that good stuff in the show notes below. And with all that said, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down once again with Tracy Barnett. Tracy, thank you so much for coming back on Party of One.
Jeff, I am thrilled that you wanted to have me back on.
I am so excited to have you back on and to play this game again. So why don't you take a moment and let the listeners know about all the cool stuff that you've got going on and about the game that we're prepping this week and in our next episode, which will theoretically also drop today, the game that we're going to be playing.
Sure. So my name is Tracy Barnett. I am a genderqueer game designer. I've been designing tabletop role-playing games for about 7 years now. Currently, I'm working on a bunch of freelance work. I've got some stuff I'm working on for Paizo, picking up some work for other companies here and there. I have a game in development that uses Fate Accelerated that is called Valkyries for Galileo games. I have a Patreon where I have published a small game every month for the last now 7 months, I believe, maybe 8. My goal is to try and get the full year of those done and then figure out what to do with that next. I also have a podcast called The Other Cast. It's sort of a podcast network now, I guess, because we have an actual play series that we're doing. We're playing Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and the title of the campaign is Waterdeep for a Few Dragons More.
Love it.
Thank you. And then I also, along with Kate Bowie, am doing this podcast that was directly inspired by your own All My Fantasy Children. It's called Another Blank Page, and it's a world-building podcast, but what we did was we started with a totally blank slate, save that we knew we were starting with a goblin, and we described that scene in a frozen moment in time, and then came up with the things from that scene that we thought would be interesting to further explore. We let people on Twitter vote on it, and then that was the subject of our second episode, was at the exact same moment in time in this world, we're going to explore this other thing. And we're basically building this world at a single moment in time, one blank wiki page at a time.
That's so cool. Like, that's it is an intense honor that a thing that I made inspired a project that is so cool. And B, like, that's just so cool. Like, that's such a cool and neat concept that I'm over the moon. It is amazing.
It has been a dream to work with Kate on this, because the two of us have a really good chemistry as we're talking about things, and we inspire some really interesting choices in one another, I think. And we take things, deeper than we thought we would go, and in different directions than we thought we would go. Like, we started with a goblin in our third episode. So we've only got 3 episodes out right now, as of this recording. But the first episode started with one goblin, and the third episode is titled "The Schism of the Flesh," which is describing a religious divide between people who believe that spirits should remain incorporeal and pure, and people and spirits who believe that taking on physical matter is the natural progression of a spirit's sort of cycle of existence. Like, we've gone some places.
I know that feel, because we've done 100 episodes of All My Fantasy Children, and the first episode is about a pumpkin. It's about a pumpkin growing contest, and I think we make it about 7 before it's political turmoil and giant bug famine, and it's an incredible experience to sit down with a person and just go, like, let's just brainstorm and throw out all of our ideas and see what comes from it, because I think they always lead to more compelling places, and I thought that's been what is so satisfying about AMFC, and what is so exciting about Another Blank Page is, like, hearing that and hearing it unfold week by week.
Yeah, it's the same creative energy. We just wanted to put those particular constraints on it because it was just a cool idea.
Well, for sure,
to both of us. So yeah, and then the Patreon backers get outtakes and bonus episodes from the actual play side of things, and then Kate and I have a Patreon exclusive version of this show called Another Black Page, which is a horror themed version of the podcast. Our pilot became that, and we're going to record more episodes that follow that particular world and its vagaries, and we're going to get real weird with that one because it's essentially for us.
Right.
Like, it's the one we're doing because we did the pilot as a test run to make sure that the concept worked for us, and it turned out to be so good that we want to do a little more with it.
I love it.
Yeah. So that I write for Gnome Stew, and I'm also in the process of putting together a small games anthology with some awesome creators. So I have scads of free time, as you might imagine.
Same, honestly. Like, it's I know the feeling, right? It's just like, what are we even doing with our days?
Working full-time jobs and then pursuing the things we love on the side.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep. Speaking of,
yes,
so
thing we love.
Tell me, like, we are playing Iron Edda Accelerated this week. We are. Speaking of the idea of playing another story in this frozen moment in time, we've talked a little bit. So let's dig in, and why don't you first give us the pitch for listeners that didn't listen to our previous episode of Iron Edda Accelerated. Why don't you give us the short pitch, the elevator pitch for the game?
Yeah, so Ragnarok happened in the form of 50-foot-tall metal dwarven destroyers rising out of the ground. And humanity cried out, oh gods, what do we do? And Loki said, hey, I have this thing that I totally didn't steal from the dwarves that will let you take the spirits of your bravest warriors and bond them to the bones of dead giants, and y'all can Pacific Rim this shit.
It's a good pitch. It's a very good pitch.
I like that pitch a lot. So Aaron and I played a session in this game of this game last year when the Kickstarter was actually on the day it launched is when we recorded it. And we made a holdfast, which is sort of the starting area that you come up with in a game of Iron Edda Accelerated. We answered a bunch of questions to do that. We made some characters and we played through their story. The idea we had for the second session, after having listened back through the previous one and sort of realizing that those characters' stories were pretty much wrapped up, but there's a lot more going on in this holdfast still, that we would take the holdfast as it stands sort of at the end of the previous session that we played, and we would make 2 new characters to interact with this world and to tell another story that was happening maybe contemporaneously with the previous story, maybe a little bit after, who knows. But to use those same story hooks. So we were not going to make a new holdfast. We're going to use the same one, but we're going to make 2 new characters.
Yes.
And that's what this episode is Jeff and I are going to put those characters together.
Yes. A brief kind of recap of the holdfast that we created. Jotunheim, home of giants. It was a holdfast that was like on the slopes of a hill, underneath which lived the giants. Live there. And Jotunheim is called that because we have a uniquely peaceful relationship with those giants. We have come to live alongside them. We are not butting heads. We are not trying to impede on their land. We very much have you have your place, we have ours. Let's just find a sort of peaceful arrangement. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna continue. The reason that peace could be brokered in the first place is because one of the bone bonded in the holdfast was bonded with Ymir, the father of giants, which is like a whole capital T thing, because in traditional Norse myth, Ymir's body makes up the world itself. So that there's just a whole lot. There's a whole lot there.
There's a whole lot to unpack. Let's see what else. What are the other sort of big? Let's look at the map and some reminder of what the other big sort of hooks are.
Yeah, slide 2 has all the notes as well. So the major empire to the south of Midgard, Petruvia, which is a Roman Empire analog, is attacking. There are a bunch of natural resources that Petruvia wants, that Midgard has, and they are not going to be shy about taking those. We didn't explore that in the slightest in the previous episode.
Yep.
So that's a big old juicy hook hanging out.
That's definitely a thing. I was thinking about that when you pitched doing like another story in this space. That was the thing that I was like, isn't there an army marching towards these characters at the end of our story? I was like, maybe we'll look into that.
Yeah. There are also refugees streaming into the holdfast. The rainy season has been really, really bad, and the flooding in the lowlands has been terrible. Jotunheim is pretty safe because we're up in the hills. But we've had to send more people out to do more hunting, to try and feed those people, which leads directly into the events of our previous game, where our Jarl had what he thought was a really great idea.
He did.
What was that idea, Jeff?
He declared himself the Jarl of Jarls and started demanding fealty of everyone that had come in, and sort of fashioned himself a king among Jarls. Had fashioned himself the overlord. It didn't go great for him.
No, it did not go great. So when we picked up our previous session, I was playing Bjarnbjørn, a farmer, in the holdfast, and Jeff was playing Sigrun the crafter. And we were in the mead hall. The Jarl was doing his Jarl thing, and then a woman comes in, ostensibly to swear fealty to him, and she then goes to attack him. The Jarl's armor, crafted by our crafter, stopped the blow. Her name was Ingrid Svelfast. We don't know from whence she came, but she showed up and then went to attack the Jarl. My character called for an honor duel because our Jarl was being a weenie.
Sure. Yep.
So I was like, well, hey, defend yourself. And he said, no, you defend me. So my character, the farmer, got set up to be in an honor duel with this woman, Ingrid, who he had a lot of respect for. I reached out to Sigrun, Jeff's character, to get a weapon made. And you said what about that weapon?
I had said that I was going to build basically the weapon that was going to like ensure your victory, and in doing so, I struck a deal with the giant that had been living under the mountain. This ancient, sort of cramped in a cave giant, and I ended up striking a deal with this giant that I would get the crystal from this giant that would create a weapon that could defeat any duel and sort of, cement your place as sort of the victorious fighter. But in exchange, Sigrun had to take the place of this giant, and it worked. We received the crystal, and then afterwards, Sigrun, sure enough, slowly has turned, like, slowly over time, has begun to turn into a giant and take the place of this giant who is quickly approaching death.
Yeah. The honor duel itself, like, there was no way that Ingrid could match the scythe that you made for me from this giant's eyelash. The battle itself the duel, I should say, was taking place on the Field of Honor, which was built on an area that had a lot of giant's bones in it, so there were all kinds of shards around. So I kind of pinned her like Doctor Strange in depending on when this releases, the most recent Avengers movie. She yielded, but then asked me a question for the second time, which is, why aren't you the Jarl? And my answer was, well, to do that, the current Jarl would have to be dead. And then I stomped on the bone shards and I killed them.
Yep.
So that's sort of potentially where we could pick up with these new characters is in Jotunheim, after Leif has become Jarl by popular accord, and as Sigrun is slowly taking on the proportions of the giant. Like, this is a long-term thing. I think we had her had him at the end of his life, right? Finally down there and giant-sized. So we have a lot of chronology within which we can play here.
Yeah, and I think that, like, at the start of this story, the one note that I think I'd like to add is that I think Sigrun is living in the caves for two reasons. One, because she's slowly turning into a giant. Like, she is slowly taking the place of this dying giant. And two, because in exchange, the other half of the trade-off for the giant giving us the eyelash was I had offered to craft a hole in the mountain that through which the giant could see the stars. So I think that Sigrun is working on this, like, this whole sort of mirror system and is living in the caves and slowly becoming a giant as part of that process.
Yeah, your actual masterwork.
Yeah.
Is that series. Okay, so we've got Sigrun down in the caves. We've got Leif as Jarl. And, some indeterminate time after that, as of right now, is where we're going to pick up. So have you given any thought to the type of character that you want to play for this new story? I have, and we just talked about it, like, with thinking about this empire that's approaching. I would love to play a soldier or like a fighter who is coming back to sort of the holdfast to, like, let the holdfast know. Maybe for some reason I've seen what the Petruvian army is capable of, and so, like, I think that's kind of the character concept that I had, was basically the person kind of running into the holdfast moments after our last episode ended, bloody, dirty sword in hand. Like, I think this is like, and the person that has encountered this army, up close and personal. Okay. What destiny were you thinking for that person? Because they could be so many of them.
Let me remind myself where the destinies are. Are they on the slideshow, or is they a separate document?
They're not in the slideshow. Do you have the PDF with you?
I believe I do.
Okay. Page 64 is the start of the destinies. That's where they're all listed out in bulk. I don't know if I don't think there's a list in the book. I can read them off real quick to you as well.
Yeah, read them off. Of course.
Yes. Okay. So we have the bandit, the bone bonded, the crafter and the farmer, the leader, the merchant, the rune scribed, the priest, the seer, the shield bearer, and the skald.
There are 3 that jump out at me.
Okay, and we can duplicate too. It's fine.
The 3 that jump out at me are the leader, the skald, and the shield bearer.
Okay.
Any of those, or maybe the rune bonded, or the rune scribed, or the bone bonded would also be very good.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those like super jump out at me. So let me ask you, what kind of character concept are you feeling? Like, have you been thinking about a character concept that like jumps out at you?
I have.
All right.
I have not yet played a rune scribed.
Okay, perfect.
So that's what I was thinking. In fact, I realized in another game that I've been streaming on Twitch with some folks that I did not write enough stunts for the rune scribed in the book. So I wrote 3 new rune scribe stunts tonight.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm planning on using some of those. That having been said, there are 24 different runes. So, and there's no such thing as too many of one thing. I ran a game of this for a stream for promotional purposes for the Kickstarter where all 3 PCs were seers. And it was awesome.
I think I kind of want to be a shield bearer.
Alrighty.
That feels cool. Like,
okay.
And that feels like someone that would survive one of these, like, a showdown with an army. I think that feels right, especially as someone that like has seen an army and is like, this is what has to happen. Like, this is what we have to like hold against this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Cool.
And then also in the book it says, when all others have fallen, you will remain. I think that feels canon in terms of like, I am the sole survivor of whomever, whatever war, whatever, either hunt. So it's a hunt. Okay, we're another blank paging IMFCing this a little bit because the ideas are coming together of like, I'm definitely picturing like a hunting party, because we had said that we were sending out more hunting parties to account for the refugees, that my hunting party was just like overwhelmed and was just like sheer numbers was just taken, and I am the one that like escaped.
I like it. Cool. Well, then let's step through this the way that we would do if we had just come from Holdfast creation.
Yeah.
So we will come up with our high concepts first.
All right.
So on our slide here, on slide 3, I'm just going to write in our destinies that we've chosen, and then, so yeah.
High concepts.
It's interesting. I've never done this absent the Holdfast creation before. So even though we have the established game that we've played, it feels a little bit like feeding into a vacuum, right? It's interesting. It's an interesting contrast. This is a nice mental exercise.
For sure.
So who is this? Who is your shield bearer? Like when you picture them, what is most true about them?
I think the thing that really jumps, like, that feels right is that I am a like slayer of great beasts, right? Like the Holdfast equivalent of a big game hunter. That I am the hunter that you send to not bring in, a deer to feed a family. I am the one you bring in because there is a woolly mammoth marching through the forests that may be the last of its kind, but if that we are going to bring in. Like, I am the one that you send out when there is a dragon overhead.
I like it. Slayer of Great Beasts is a really good high concept. I'm going to try and play this character sort of off type for me. I tend to do really, although previous session that we played kind of gives this the lie, but I tend to play really talkative characters who want to help people. Mm-hmm. I don't want that to be who this is. In fact, I think that my character isn't from this holdfast.
Okay.
Originally, I think that they were a refugee from someplace else and happened to come across you while you were heading back from the holdfast.
Okay, I like that.
Or heading back from being raided. Mm-hmm. And we just happened to end up at the holdfast together. So like we traveled the last, say, day or so together. So my high concept is going to be you don't know me.
Ooh, that's good.
Because I feel like that's on purpose for this character. So what trouble does the Slayer of Great Beasts have?
I think I've been thinking about it, and I think I know the exact phrase that I want it to be. I think it's hubris was my downfall.
Oh, so you've got a reputation now.
I think
you're trying to not have that be the case anymore?
Yeah, I think it was that, like, I thought I could take that army. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've slayed countless, I've slayed monsters. I've slayed things so much larger than myself. Things bigger than me stood before me and they fell. What's an army but just another thing that is bigger than me, and I was laid to waste. So it's simultaneously that I have that ego of, like, if it stands before me, I can kill it. But also, for the first time, something stood before me and just broke me. Mm-hmm. So, like, I am torn between the two great like flaws of ego and of a broken ego.
I like it. That's really cool. I don't want to go, like, my first thought for my trouble was the kind of thing where it's like, you don't know me and I don't know myself either. Mm-hmm. But I think this person knows exactly who they are. I almost get like a fortune and glory is fine, but get paid kid, mm-hmm. kind of Han Solo attitude. But I don't. What am I trying to? Something like there's no one I can count on but myself.
That's pretty good. I mean, especially since you've been traveling with someone. And there's this overwhelming threat that we have to face, and we're not going to be able to, do it alone. Like, that's a good...
It's a nice counterpoint to yours as well, mm-hmm. right? Because I think that prior to the events that led to our characters meeting, you probably would have respected that attitude from my character. You'd be like, yeah, that's exactly right. But you've had this moment that, like, no, sometimes you need other people, mm-hmm. and
right now
cool.
You might need other people. Yes, last week I might have said we were two of the same coin, but now I'm starting to doubt that.
Yeah,
I really love that. That's awesome.
I also know already what my warrior clan's going to be.
Okay.
And mine's the clan of the horse.
All right.
And the aspect associated with that is swift of. Oh, that's the old aspect from War of Metal and Bone. The new one's one with the wind, one with the land. I'm going to take the old one, which is swift of foot, long of life.
Okay.
Do you need a rundown of the clans again?
Yes, that would be great.
Wonderful. Let me get you to
what
that
page
information.
Of the book is that? I've now got the book in front of me.
That is on page 44 of the PDF, 39 of the book itself.
44. Perfect. There we go.
And while you're reading, I will read these off for our listening audience. So we have the Clan of the Bear, whose aspect is the beast must be bested. The Clan of the Dragon, rage is all the warmth we need. Clan of the Hammer, the world is meant to be shaped. Clan of the Horse, one with the wind, one with the land. Clan of the Ox, we stand, we fight. Clan of the Raven, there are worlds beyond what we can see. Clan of the Snake, hide, wait, strike, bite. The Clan of the Sparrow, words are the true weapon. and the clan of the wolf. The pack is all.
You know, as tempting as it is to go clan of the bear, the beast must be bested.
Mm-hmm.
I think I almost want to lean into my trouble a little bit and go with the clan of the ox. We stand, we fight, and change
that
it.
Makes sense.
And change my clan aspect to fight until you fall.
That's a really good shield bearer aspect.
Mm-hmm. You know, it is what has led to triumph over, you know, these creatures that could crush me in an instant. Is just they underestimate, and I get up and, like, you know, I don't stop, and eventually one of us falls, and until today it was always them.
I like it a lot. What is your character's sacred item?
My sacred item is a dragon scale shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing that earned me the reputation of a slayer of great beast. Like, I took the scales and I made this, like, and I had Sigrun the crafter make this shirt that, like, I could hold on to and have it, and it has saved my life on many an occasion, not least of which when Petruvian arrows were raining down upon us.
Cool. I like the dragon scale shirt a lot.
It's as much it is incredibly functional on the battlefield, but it is as much symbolic and as saying, you know, I did this. This is my trophy. And I wear it with me. I don't just carry it, I wear it with me at all times.
Mm-hmm. Which is not dissimilar from a rune scribe's rune, mm-hmm. right? Which is what my sacred item has to be. So let me jump back in the PDF real quick, and the rune I'm going to choose is Ehwaz, which means horse, wildness, and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So they are the breakers of bonds, the travelers, and those with their gaze locked on the horizon. So they cannot be contained or controlled. It's one of those runes that I haven't really seen in play before. Mm-hmm. So I want to see what it can do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the rune is, at a casual glance, it looks like a necklace made of tied together twigs, mm-hmm. just like a hemp or leather thong right around my neck. That the charm on it is probably 3-inch by 3-inch square rune of Ehwaz, but it's not a necklace. The wood and the thread binding it is actually embedded in the skin of my chest.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. And it's just there, and I've then, like, hooked another thread to it and tied this leather thong around my neck, so it, at a glance, looks like a necklace. So I'm going to say, we'll just call it Woodbound.
Mm-hmm.
Rune of Ehwaz.
I dig it. That's awesome.
Thank you. All right, so we diverge into mechanical stuff real quick, and we get to add our approaches. We get 1 at +3, 2 at +2, 2 at +1, and 1 at 0.
Make my 0 guile. I don't think I put much stock in trickery. And I'm gonna put my 2 in flair. I'm gonna put my 3 in flair.
And not in force. That's interesting.
2 in focus and force. I think that, you know, I think this is a character that puts on a that puts on a show. Mm-hmm. You know, that is as much you know, it is as much panache as it is, you know, actual capable, you know, combat strength when it comes to, like, the fight happens in the mind as well, but part of that is a lot of showing off and it's a little bit pro wrestling.
I mean, I'm shocked, Jeff, that you would include anything pro wrestling related in a character that you've made.
I know, right? I'm shocked that that's where it ended up going.
I love it. Cool. So I put my +3 in haste. Mm-hmm. I put my 2s in guile and intellect, my 1s in focus and force, and my 0 in flair.
So I've put my 3 into flair, my 2 into focus and force, and 1 into haste and intellect. I almost switched intellect and guile, but I realized I kind of liked my character having that sense of like, being able to think things through and having a little bit of that, like, I think it almost felt too easy to make it 0 intellect, but having it be 1 intellect mm-hmm. gives it a little bit of that, like, know thy enemy, the art of war type approach.
Yeah, for sure. And the nice thing about Fate Accelerated as a system is just because your approach is low, it doesn't mean, like, a 0 intellect doesn't mean your character is unintelligent. Right. It just means that's the approach to things that they are least skilled at using.
Yeah, and that's I was thinking about that.
I prefer that to, like, the D&D, my intelligence is a 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and I was thinking about that, which is why I think 0 guile works better for me, because I think, being that I am the great slayer of beasts, I don't think that I am going to sneak up or approach carefully. I think that it's part of my mm-hmm. aura and my legend to, face something head on and sort of, rush it that way as opposed to, ducking and weaving.
You're the honor duel person.
Yeah.
You're the announce your challenge type of cat. Yeah.
Had I been there last game, I think things would have gone differently.
Probably. I don't know if you would have been able to stand the idea of a farmer going up mm-hmm. against who is obviously a very highly trained combatant. Mm-hmm. Cool. So, just for those who are listening, I'm going to run down... do you want me to run down your conditions? Would you like to do that, or...
Go ahead.
Okay. So your most notable condition track is called I Can Outlast You.
Okay.
The important thing to note with this is when you look at a character sheet, you do not have an in peril or doomed checkbox.
Okay.
So you don't have any way to mitigate stress other than taking stress.
Got it.
What you do is when you would be taken out of a conflict, if your 6 stress boxes are exceeded, you mark a box of I Can Outlast You. You then clear your entire stress track, but you scrub out a box. Mm. So you come back with only 5 stress boxes the next time.
Got it.
Then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Or actually just 2, because you've only got 5 boxes of I Can Outlast You. If you are finally taken out, then you mark a condition called Last Stand. And you basically make 1 attack against all of your opponents in your zone at giant scale. After that attack is resolved, you are taken out and death is the only outcome.
That rules. Mm-hmm. That's so good. I'm so excited.
You've got a couple of other things you can do. You have a condition called You Have to Get Past Me First. You have to get past me first. You mark the condition and you place an aspect called Under My Control on a zone you occupy. Basically, you're drawing aggro. Mm-hmm. Anytime an opponent moves to attack someone besides you in the zone, they have to overcome a difficulty of 4. If they don't succeed or they succeed at a cost, they have to attack you instead as you interpose yourself between them and their original target. Mm-hmm. And you recover this condition by taking out an opponent during a conflict. And then you also have Now Is Not Your Time. Basically, when an ally in your zone would be taken out, you mark that condition to intercede. Okay. You take the brunt of that attack, you mark a box of I Can Outlast You, and And then you recover this condition by taking a scene to bolster your defenses, right? Repairing your armor or weapons, fortifying the hold fast protection, so on and so forth. But that is that's basically how you do what you do.
I love it.
And you recover boxes of I Can Outlast You by taking an appropriate healing action with the Overcome roll. So as if In Peril or Doomed were marked, but you're using your boxes of I Can Outlast You as the difficulty.
Okay, that rules. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so you are a walking tank. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of this character.
That's exactly what I wanted to play.
I've seen shield bearers in play take a hit from a Dwarven Destroyer and get pounded into the ground and then just lift the Destroyer's hammer up and climb out of the pit and grin.
Yep, that's the character and it was like kind of like what you were saying about playing against type is like I always play the brainy or the crafty or the cunning character. I kind of wanted to just play the just brutal, shit kicked out of me tank, and I think this is I'm so excited.
So you start with one core stunt. Your core stunt is Bang Your Shield. Once per scene, you can spend a fate point to bang your shield and draw your enemy's attention to you. Until the start of your next turn, your conditions of you have to get past me first and now is not your time don't just affect the zone you're in, they affect all adjacent zones.
Okay.
So basically, if things are getting hot and heavy and there's a Dwarven Destroyer next to you and there's a lot of allies to protect, you can draw aggro not just from the one space in the battlefield, but from everywhere around you.
That's so good. That's very, very good.
Yeah, you can just get dogpiled. And then you can spend... oh, wow, I'm seeing I should have written some additional stunts for the shield bearer, too. Interesting. If we come up with anything in play, they're going to get added to the official canon. So how about
fantastic.
That?
Awesome.
You can spend up to 3 points of your refresh on the 3 stunts you have available, or we can make new ones. You can take Shield Wall. When you're in the same zone as an ally during conflict, you add +2 when you take the defend action. You can take Solid, which is you get 2 additional stress boxes, but for physical attacks only, which is very helpful when you're the shield bearer. Or you can take Seeing Red. You can clear all available boxes of I Can Outlast You, and you recoup all of the stress boxes that have gone away, right? So if your track was full and you only had 2 stress boxes left, you can, see red, clear all those, get all your stress boxes back, but then the GM chooses your next action because you're essentially berserking.
Yeah. I think I'm going to take 1 for Solid.
Okay.
I think Solid feels right.
Cool. And if anything comes up in play when we do the session where you're like, I think I would be able to do this thing, then we'll do that. And we'll just make it a stunt, and I'll submit it to Encoded Designs, and it will become something official most likely. Because that's the easiest way for me to write stunts in Fate, is during play. Cool. So you'll take you took your refresh down by 1 already. And then for my stuff... so I have the unique condition of Rune Scribed, which means I have a rune bound to my body somehow. And the bearers of any rune are always affected by the rune's power, as there's a constant subtle effect. So because mine is Horse Freedom, the Breaking of Chains, right? Like I'm always kind of fidgeting and constantly moving. And simple things like if I have a buckle on my boots, it always comes unlatched. Right? My boots don't fall off. It's not for comedic effect, but nothing can stay tied to me.
I love that.
Yeah. Then for my conditions, I have one called Runic Power, which has 3 boxes. I mark a box of Runic Power, and for the rest of the scene, I channel my rune into one of my approaches.
Okay.
That bumps it up to Heroic Scale, so 1 step above how everyone else happens. So basically, any approach that I use during that scene is just better, and I narrate how it is because of my rune. if I mark all my boxes of runic power and I want to channel my rune, I can mark 2 stress boxes and I can mark the rune burned condition. Rune burned, I'm burning my own body in essence to channel the rune. I write a new aspect to reflect my change in physical state, and I recover this condition by making an overcome roll of +6. Fantastic. So it's difficult. If I am taken out while that condition is marked, I am not actually taken out. My rune saves me. However, I take one of my 6 approaches and I replace it with my rune. And every time I want to use that approach, I have to mark a box of runic power and use the rune instead. Mm-hmm. So if I replaced my haste, it's not haste anymore, it's ahwaz. And that can occur until all of my approaches are taken up by my rune, and then I explode.
Okay. That's a hell of a closing note.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a condition called Ruptured. It works a lot like the Last Stand that the Shield Bearer has, except that I damage everybody, not just bad guys. Rune Scribe to get 2 runes, or 2 core stunts. I can spend a fate point and mark Rune Burned to channel additional power. It can function at epic scale for 1 exchange. And then I have a stunt called Better to Burn Out. I have a +2 to overcome when I use my runic approach. But I must mark the appropriate conditions to use the approach as normal. I've got a few other stunts that I can take. I think, what did I put my focus at? My focus is +1. So I'm going to take Runic Recovery. Once per session, I can spend a fate point and roll focus at +4 to recover all my boxes of Runic Recovery. It takes an entire scene and cannot be done if Rune Burned is marked. And then the other thing, I'm going to take one of the new ones that I wrote. Let's see. I'm going to take Unpredictable Power.
Okay.
The power of my rune is unpredictable. When I mark my runic power condition, I roll 1 additional fate die. On a blank, my rune functions as normal. On a minus, it operates at human scale, but I receive a fate point. On a plus, it functions at giant scale, and I mark 2 stress boxes.
Cool. I'm really excited. I really like this game. I like these characters. I like this setting. I am very excited.
Wonderful. I'm very glad about that. It occurs to me, you don't have to spend that. You don't have to lower your refresh. You get one stunt for free.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, you can just copy over a fate point and do it that way. So, we've got those things for our characters. And the last thing that we need to do is we need to make our group aspects. Mm-hmm. So this is an aspect that directly names the other character in the game. And we met as you were fleeing the Petruvian army that you thought you could take on single-handedly, and I was heading towards some semblance of safety from my holdfast, which I believe was also destroyed by the Petruvians. Mm-hmm. So, or flooded out, or both. So we've known each other for what, a day?
Like a day or so.
Okay. So I guess the simplest question to ask is, what do you think of me?
I think we are... I think the best way to put it, like I think I said it earlier, is I think a day ago I'd have said we were two of the same kind. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's still true.
Let's give ourselves some names real quick. Yeah. So we can actually name ourselves in the group aspect. I'm
going to go with Ivar, which is also a pro wrestling reference, because there were 2 Viking-themed wrestlers that were just re-debuted on Monday Night Raw, and they named them the Viking Experience, which is the best name ever, because it sounds like a terrible Epcot ride. and they were one of them was renamed Ivar, and so it's my tribute to the Viking experience.
Wonderful. Do you have a surname?
I think my surname is Ivar. I'm gonna go Bone Axe. I think Bone Axe is just a cool sounding name, and I like the implications of it, and it ties into sort of having the idea of, you know, if I've got this shirt, I think it ties into the idea that I'm taking a lot of trophies.
All right. Missing one character in there. I'm going to be Book Pelbern.
I like it.
If you don't mind, I'm going to give you a quick
Please.
hyphen.
Please.
There. That way we can... Because EA is a weird character to look at together. Okay, so... yesterday, yours would be then yesterday, I would have said that Boke and I are two sides of the same coin.
I'm going to make it two sides of the same coin and then put a question mark.
So technically it has to name the other person.
Oh, got it.
So are Boke and I two sides of the same coin?
And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste so I get the umlaut without having to go to the special characters field. There we go. Boke and I
there's a thing in Valkyries that uses the O with an umlaut, so I have the alt code for it memorized. Excellent. It's an easy one though. It's alt 246.
Oh, okay.
Or 0246. Yeah. So I'm gonna make this real simple. Ivar is useful for now.
Love it. Dang, that's good.
Okay, so we've got Boke Pelbern and Ivar Bonax. And these two are fleeing trouble, certain doom, bad choices, and heading toward Jotunheim, seeking something. Okay.
I think that our opening visual for us to ruminate on until we play the actual game is that I picture us coming in on like a cart, and like Ivar is like hand on the knee, or bone axe at his feet, and is just kind of like, mud is very much the big aesthetic. Everything is flooding, so I think mud is sort of our big textural and color aesthetic, and it's just sitting, and like we've been on this cart for a few miles now, maybe most of the way of this day's journey, heading into Jotunheim, and you know, we are coming to this place, and it is just like smoke on the horizon behind us.
It's kind of like the opening of Skyrim, right? But if you look behind, like you said, there's just smoke on the horizon. And I think Boke's gaze never stops, like, it never sticks in one place for too long, even if they're talking to Ivar. Like, it's always like looking back at the smoke or ahead or off to the side, and there's this look of anticipation in their eyes that as soon as the cart stops, they're just going to be leaping over the side. Also, I think they only have one boot on. Okay.
I think Ivar's shirt still shimmers, right? Like, it's still, like, the light hits it, and it still has, you know, it's muddy, and it's dark, and it's, like, caked in that mud, but, like, the light hits it, and those scales shine right through it. And I think that's our visual that we kind of linger on until the actual recording, which is to say, I am so freaking excited.
I love playing games with you, Jeff.
Thank you.
I love how excited you are about all of the things that you do. You bring a fantastic energy to the games that you play.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Well, you're welcome.
So that is a wrap for character creation for Iron Edda Accelerated Part 2. So thank you for doing this. I can't wait to sit down and play the actual game. But until then, why don't you tell us where people can find you, your work, and Iron Edda Accelerated online?
You can find Iron Edda Accelerated on DriveThruRPG. It's published by Encoded Designs. You can get the PDF or print-on-demand options. The hardback looks really, really nice. You can find me online at The Other Tracy. That's Tracy. That's my website, theothertracy.com. My podcast is The Other Cast. And if you want to support my small game creation or my audio exploits through actual play and world building, then you can support me at patreon.com/Tracy Barnett.
Perfect. Well, until our next episode, until we sit down, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Tracy for coming on to the show. That was very, very cool. I love doing character creation session episodes because I think that they give a really great look at like what goes into the making of an episode, and this one turned out really spectacularly, so I'm very, very happy with it. Be sure to check out links to all of Tracy's work in the show notes and follow them on Twitter at TheOtherTracy. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/PartyOfOnePodcast, join our Discord community at bit.ly/PartyOfOneDiscord. If you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review, a social media shout-out, or a word-of-mouth recommendation to a friend. All of those things help us do bigger, better, and cooler things, like live shows, like the 2 that we have coming up this Saturday, that is July 6th at 9 a.m. at DexCon in Morristown, New Jersey, or the one we have coming up as part of the Philadelphia Podcast Festival, July 20th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at Tattooed Moms. Both of those are going to be super, super fun, and I hope to see you there. You can also support the show monetarily at patreon.com/JeffStormer. That also supports the games that I make, the communities that I support, all the cool stuff that I do. So check it out. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you would like to inquire about advertising rates or about coming onto the show, you can reach me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, that's it for me. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.